You've been lied to about aging. They tell you it's time to slow down, step back, and stay quiet. But what if that's the exact opposite of what you should be doing? Because here's the truth. There's a reason Donald Trump, love him or hate him, still dominates headlines, commands attention, and keeps building influence after 70. And it's not just because he's loud or rich. It's because he refuses to back down. He plays to win, even when most people his age are being told to just relax and fade away. Today, we're diving into something powerful. Not politics, not drama, but the real-life advice from Donald Trump that can light a fire under your next chapter. Advice about winning, building wealth, and staying bold well into your 70s and beyond. And whether you like the man or not, there are lessons here worth paying attention to, especially if you're over 60 and ready to flip the script on aging. In this video, we're going to break down how Trump's mindset and unapologetic approach to life can help you unlock your own second act, one filled with purpose, confidence, and yes, even fresh success. So, let's start with something you might not expect, because it's not about money, it's about attitude. The first lesson: never apologize for thinking big. Now, for a lot of us who've grown up with manners and modesty drilled into us, that might sound a little harsh. But when Trump says, if you're going to be thinking anyway, you might as well think big, he's pointing to something important. As we get older, it becomes easier and more acceptable to think small, to downsize our goals, to convince ourselves that dreaming big is for the young. But the truth is, bold thinking has no expiration date. Just because you've hit 70 doesn't mean you should stop imagining what's possible. If anything, now is the time to think bigger. You've got the wisdom, you've got the experience, you've seen more, endured more, and learned more than most people ever will. So why not put all that to use? Trump didn't just ride his early business success into retirement. He used his 70s to grab the biggest job in the world. And he did it with the same bold energy he had decades earlier. The takeaway here isn't about politics. It's about your own willingness to stop playing small, to wake up each day asking, what's one bold thing I can do today that makes me feel alive? And bold doesn't have to mean running for office or building skyscrapers. Bold can mean writing that book you've always talked about, starting that online business, finally learning guitar, speaking up in rooms where you used to stay silent. Bold means refusing to shrink just because the world expects you to. Which brings us to the second piece of advice. Never let age define your drive. Trump often says, people may think I'm slowing down, but I feel like I'm just getting started. Now, sure, he says it with his usual flair, but there's wisdom underneath it. A lot of people over 60 feel like they're running out of time. They stop pushing. They start coasting. And you know what happens then? The spark fades. The excitement dulls. Life starts feeling like a slow wait for the end. But what if you flip that? What if, instead of counting down the years, you treated every new day like an opportunity to do something different, to make progress, to surprise yourself, even to shock the people around you? That's the power of staying driven after 70. And it doesn't have to look flashy. You don't need cameras or crowds. Drive is quiet sometimes. It shows up in the early mornings when you commit to walking every day. It's in the way you start saving for something new. Even when people say, at your age, it's in the books you read, the ideas you chase, the skills you sharpen. Not because you have to, but because you can. Trump could have kicked back a long time ago, but he didn't. He stayed in motion. He stayed loud, focused, opinionated, and most importantly, hungry. That hunger to do more, be more, and give more is something you never have to lose. It's not tied to youth. It's tied to choice. And if you've ever felt like your best days are behind you, hear this clearly. They're not. The best day could be today, but only if you act like it. Now here's the third piece, and it might just be the most important one yet. Ignore the critics. Trump's made a career and a lifestyle out of shaking off criticism. He's been called every name in the book. He's been mocked, sued, banned, and booed. And yet, he keeps going. He doesn't let the noise in. He doesn't crumble because someone doesn't like what he said or how he said it. That's not just ego, it's armor. And if you're over 60, you've probably had your fair share of criticism too. Maybe for how you raise your kids, how you spend your money, how you dress, what you believe. Maybe even for daring to want more out of life instead of settling down quietly like people expect. But here's the truth. Most of the people criticizing you are doing less than you are. They're watching, judging, and sitting still while you're out there trying. Trump doesn't let the doubters steer his ship, and neither should you. Because when you stop living to please everyone else, you start living for real. You stop asking, is this okay? And you start saying, this is what I want. You've earned the right to speak your truth. Chase your goals and live boldly, not quietly, not apologetically, boldly. If someone has a problem with that, that's their problem, not yours. Now that we've looked at how thinking big, staying driven, and tuning out the critics can shift everything after 70, let's go even deeper, because it's one thing to think big and ignore the critics, but it's another thing entirely to back that up with action. And if there's one thing Trump is known for, it's staying in motion, not just mentally, but physically, socially, financially. He keeps moving forward. And that brings us to the next big takeaway. Energy is a decision. You've probably noticed something. There are people in their 40s who act like they're 80, and there are people in their 80s who carry themselves like they're still in their prime. What makes the difference? Often, it comes down to mindset and motion. You see, Trump doesn't just sit back and wait for things to happen. He creates momentum. He surrounds himself with projects, plans, and people, all of which keep his energy levels high, even in the face of chaos. Now, that doesn't mean you need to fill every second of your day with noise, but it does mean you need to stay engaged, stay curious, stay challenged. That's what creates energy, not caffeine, not naps, not just vitamins, but the feeling that you're still part of the game. You don't need to run for president to feel alive. You just need something to wake up for. That could be a side hustle you've been toying with, a new role in your church or community, or even just a standing coffee date with a friend who makes you laugh like you're back in high school. When you have purpose, you have energy. And when you have energy, you start to become someone people can't ignore. Not because you're the loudest, but because you're the most alive. And speaking of being alive, let's talk about money. One of the things Trump has always emphasized, sometimes loudly, sometimes a little too confidently, is the importance of not being afraid to make money at any age. That might make some people uncomfortable, especially folks raised to think that talking about money is somehow greedy or impolite. But let's be honest, money matters, not because it buys happiness, but because it gives you options. And when you're over 60, options are everything. Trump didn't slow down after hitting retirement age. In fact, his name and brand got bigger. And while the rest of the world might have expected him to kick back and enjoy his billions, he chose to keep building. Why? Because wealth isn't just about dollars, it's about freedom. It's about being able to say yes to opportunities and no to anything that doesn't serve you. Now, maybe you're not looking to build a real estate empire, but you can find ways to bring in new income streams, even after retirement. Whether it's investing smarter, selling something you know how to make, teaching a skill online, or even turning a hobby into a little side income. The point is, don't count yourself out. Don't say, I'm too old to start something new, because you're not. Plenty of people start their most successful ventures in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. And they're not doing it for the money alone. They're doing it because it feels good to build something, to contribute, to create value, to leave a legacy. Trump understands the value of his name, and he's not afraid to use it. That's a big lesson, especially if you spent years hiding your light behind modesty or fear. Because believe it or not, you have a name too, and it means something, maybe not on a billboard, but to your family, your community, even your online network. What if you started treating your name like a brand? What if you owned your story instead of shrinking from it? Let me tell you, your experiences, your skills, your insights, that's value. And the world still wants it, needs it, and will even pay for it if you're bold enough to share it. And that brings us to something that often gets overlooked, especially as we age, staying visible. Now, Trump is always visible. Some might say too visible, but whether you agree with him or not, the guy knows how to stay in front of people. He doesn't fade into the background. He doesn't blend in with the wallpaper. He shows up loudly, confidently, and unapologetically. And while you don't have to be on TV or social media 24/7, there's a deeper lesson here. Don't disappear. Because when you disappear, you become easy to forget. And when you become easy to forget, your influence slips away. And so does your voice. Being visible doesn't mean being flashy. It means being present, being active, having an opinion, and sharing it. Being that person who still dresses sharp, speaks up in meetings, takes the lead on family trips, or offers advice with clarity and warmth. Being visible means refusing to blend in with the background just because the world tells you your time has passed. It hasn't, And if you ever sat in a room and felt like the younger people stopped listening, or if you've ever had a doctor or a bank teller speak to you like you were invisible, you know exactly what I mean. Trump doesn't let people ignore him, not because he yells, but because he owns the room. And at your age, you've got every right to do the same. Not just because you've earned it, but because the world still needs what you bring. So whether it's through your work, your wisdom, your humor, or your presence, make it a point to be seen. Because staying bold after 70 doesn't mean being loud. It means being impossible to overlook. Now that we've talked about energy, wealth, and visibility, let's lean into what might be the boldest move of all. Because at some point, all the money, energy, and visibility in the world don't mean much if you don't stand for something. And that's where we reach the boldest piece of advice Donald Trump has to offer. One that stirred both admiration and controversy for decades. Never back down from who you are. Now, let's be real for a second. Trump's personality isn't exactly subtle. He's brash, he's polarizing, and he's been called just about every name under the sun. But here's what you can't deny. He owns every bit of it. He doesn't try to water himself down. He doesn't change who he is just to be liked. And no matter what you think of the man, there's something undeniably powerful about that level of self-certainty. Because here's the thing most people won't tell you about getting older. The world starts trying to edit you. People will assume you're stuck in your ways, that your opinions don't matter as much anymore, or that you should just nod and smile and keep things easy. But if you've made it to 60, 70, or beyond, you've earned the right to live unfiltered. You've been through enough to know what matters to you. You know your values. You know your boundaries. You know what feels right and what doesn't. So why start second-guessing yourself now? Trump doesn't dilute his personality, and neither should you. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be confrontational or controversial, but it does mean being honest. It means speaking your mind, saying no when you mean no, saying yes to what excites you, even if others don't understand it, being bold enough to live by your own rules, even when it ruffles a few feathers. Think about how much time people waste trying to please everyone, try to fit into boxes, trying not to rock the boat. But boats were made to move, not to sit still and rot. And if there's one thing that keeps you young inside, it's the decision to keep steering your own ship. And you know what? Sometimes that means walking away. One of Trump's lesser-known traits is how quickly he walks away from bad deals, whether it's a business venture, a toxic relationship, or a partnership that doesn't serve him. He cuts ties fast. He's not afraid to lose short-term comfort if it means preserving long-term vision. That's something most people over 60 can relate to, because by now, you've probably had your fair share of relationships or commitments that felt more like weight than wings. Maybe you stayed because it was a polite thing to do. Maybe you didn't want to start over. Maybe you thought it was too late. But let me say this, it's never too late to walk away from what's draining you and step toward what fuels you. Whether it's a stale routine, a friendship that brings more stress than joy, or even just a habit of always putting yourself last, you don't have to carry it anymore. Trump's boldness isn't just about what he says, it's about what he lets go of. That kind of decisiveness is something you can practice too. It starts small, saying no to a commitment that no longer excites you, declining an invitation if rest feels more valuable than obligation, setting new boundaries, creating space for what you really want. And sometimes, the boldest thing you can do is reinvent yourself entirely. Let's not forget, Trump was a businessman, then a reality TV host, then the President of the United States, all after turning 60. He didn't limit himself to one identity. He kept evolving. And while not everyone liked that, it didn't stop him. So here's the question. What if you're not done evolving either? It doesn't matter if you've spent 40 years in one job or lived in the same house since the 80s. Reinvention isn't about wiping the slate clean. It's about letting yourself grow in new directions. It's about picking up the paintbrush for the first time since high school, starting a YouTube channel with your grandkids, launching an online shop from your kitchen table, traveling solo, moving somewhere new, learning a new language, falling in love again or for the first time. The point is, you don't have to stay who you were. You get to choose who you become. Trump chooses his identity every day, and whether you admire him or not, there's inspiration in that. You have that same power, the same ability to wake up tomorrow and say, you know what? I'm not finished. I've still got chapters to write. And that brings us to something bigger than any policy, dollar figure, or a headline: belief. Because at the heart of everything Trump does, for better or worse, is belief in himself, in his message, in his mission. And that kind of belief is magnetic. It's what makes people follow, what makes crowds show up, what makes the man keep pushing forward, no matter what stands his way. So let me ask you, what do you believe about yourself right now? Do you believe you're too old to matter? Or do you believe that your voice still counts? Do you believe your best days are behind you? Or do you believe that something extraordinary could still be around the corner? The answers to those questions matter, because belief becomes behavior, and behavior becomes your life. So choose to believe boldly. Choose to believe that your story isn't done, that your experiences are valuable, that you're still capable of building, growing, laughing, leading, and inspiring others, not despite your age, but because of it. Because if there's one thing Trump has proven again and again, it's this: confidence is louder than criticism. And when you live with bold belief, you stop needing permission. You stop asking the world to see you, because you already see yourself. And that's when things start to shift. And once you start believing in yourself again, unapologetically, boldly, everything around you begins to shift. Because belief isn't just a quiet thought in your head. It's the fuel behind how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you treat your time, and how others respond to you. It gives you presence. It gives you purpose. And maybe most importantly, it gives you permission to be fully alive again. That's what Donald Trump has tapped into, for better or worse. Over the decades, he doesn't just live life, he owns it. He takes up space. He makes noise. He dares to take risks, even when the world says no. And while most of us won't live that kind of public life, the spirit of what he's doing is something anyone can apply. Because after 70, life isn't about playing it safe. It's about playing it smart and playing it real. Now, here's something Trump doesn't say outright, but it's written between the lines of his actions. Surround yourself with people who challenge you. Even the boldest people lose steam when they're surrounded by doubt, negativity, or small-mindedness. The people in your life either lift you up or pull you down. There's not much in between. If you've ever noticed how drained you feel after certain conversations, that's not a coincidence. It's a signal. And at this stage in life, you don't have time for energy thieves. You need people who feed your fire, not douse it. Trump has always curated his inner circle to reflect his goals. Advisors, friends, partners. He keeps people around who help him move forward, even if they challenge him in the process. That's a lesson worth taking seriously. So ask yourself, who are the people in my life that still make me feel alive? Who encourages me to grow, to think bigger, to take chances? And just as important, who makes me feel smaller? Who makes me doubt myself? You don't need to cut ties with everyone, but you do need to be intentional. Because just like a garden needs sunlight, your boldness needs a right kind of company. Find it, build it, protect it. And once you got that foundation in place, your energy, your mindset, your circle, you're ready for something most people overlook in later life: having fun. You know, for all the criticism Donald Trump gets, one thing's clear: the man is having fun. He's animated, he's engaged, he laughs, he jokes, he pokes the bear. He plays to win, but he also plays. And maybe that's something we all need to be reminded of. That after 70, you still get to play, you still get to laugh so hard you can't breathe, you still get to dress sharp, flirt a little, try something ridiculous just because it makes a good story. You get to mess up, start over, take chances. Fun isn't reserved for the young. It's reserved for the willing. And if you're willing to drop the weight of acting your age, you just might find the second half of your life is way more fun than the first. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, yeah, but I've already wasted too much time, let me stop you right there. You haven't wasted a second. Every moment has brought you right here, to this very point, where you get to choose what comes next. You can't change your past, but you can change how you show up for your future. You can stop waiting for someone else to give you permission. You can stop shrinking to fit other people's comfort zones. You can stop apologizing for wanting more. Because here's what this whole message has been about. From Trump's story to your own, it's never too late to live big, win big, and dream big. It's never too late to take the next swing, to bet on yourself, to reinvent, recharge, and restart. So whether you're 60, 70, or even 90, this is your time. You've got nothing to prove and everything to explore. You've got wisdom in your corner and freedom on your side. You've already made it through the hardest chapters. Now it's time to write the boldest ones. So what will you do with that? Maybe you'll finally start that project you've been putting off. Maybe you'll call up an old friend and make amends. Maybe you'll try salsa dancing, or join a local theater, or book a trip that's been sitting on your bucket list since forever. Whatever it is, do it now. Not someday. Not when I have more time. Now, because this moment right here might be the moment that changes everything. Not because it's loud or dramatic, but because it's honest, because it's yours, and because deep down, you know you're not finished. You're not too old. You're just getting started. So go out there and take up space. Be bold, be alive, be unstoppable. And hey, if this message lit a spark for you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us how you're staying bold after 70. Let someone else read your story and feel a little braver because of it. And if you want more videos like this, more motivation, more energy, more fire for the road ahead, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We got so much more to talk about, and I don't want you to miss a thing. Here's to living your best life at any age, because 70, that's not the end of the road. It's the beginning of your boldest chapter yet.